Hi friends, welcome to my channel AVC Code. In this session, I will continue the second part of the virus threat issue on the executable created by PyInstaller. Here I will discuss another way how to reduce or nullify the virus threats on the executable created by PyInstaller. As I have mentioned, this is the second part. So to be clear about the main concern of this session, I will suggest to check the first part of this series. Please check the descriptions for the link of this video. You may know that the PyInstaller is not a pure Python package. In PyPy, PyInstaller comes with pre-compiled bootloader of some platform that includes Windows operating system. And here for an example, I am using Windows 64-bit operating system. So when we used to install PyInstaller using pip install PyInstaller command, pip used to download and install a PyInstaller with a pre-compiled bootloader. Like here, if I run this, previously I have installed, so it is getting all these resources from the local. Now the problem is the pre-compiled bootloader may got compiled in a system whose configurations may be very close to your system, but not exactly same with your system. That's why the best thing is to download the source code of PyInstaller and then compile them at your system and then install it. Now here, before you proceed, please be careful and make sure everything is consistent at your system. I mean, if your Windows is a 64-bit, then install a 64-bit Python version. I have noticed in many occasions the people are making some common mistakes during installation of Python. If I see the properties, it's a 64-bit operating system. In this case, I have to install a 64-bit Python installation, Python version. Download Python 3. I'm talking about this Python 3 only, not Python 2. Many people I have seen that they used to click on this download Python version. Here I will show how can you get the particular installer which is compatible with your operating system. Scroll down to this section. There you can see the download for Windows. Here you can see one is for stable release and another one. This is the column for free release. I will look into this stable release column. There I will be looking for 3.8 version. So here you can see that the Windows installer for 64-bit. So I will download this one. So here the Python installer has been downloaded. Run this installer as an administrator. So it will be asking for your permissions. Then here don't use this install now, use customized installation. At the same time, please check this box to add this Python path at your path variable. Okay, so I'm clicking here. I'm using this customized installation because in case of Python we know that we may have multiple versions of Python installed in the same system. If I use a predefined location, then I will be having a very good control on the installation of each Python version and its different packages installed for different Python versions. I've created a folder here in that program file, this Python 8, Python 3.8 or 38, whatever. And associate Python required, whatever it is selected, let's set it as manual. If you click on the install for all users, then this path variable should be applicable for all users. So I'm setting it for all users. So now the Python version has been installed. Here we will be checking the Python version. So here it is 3.8.8. So we are seeing this Python version because we set the checkbox. I think you can recall that we set the checkbox to add the Python path into our path variable. So now we are done with the installation of correct version of Python. Now, as I have told before, the PyInstaller is not a pure Python package. It includes some C++ code. The bootloader is actually written in C++. So a C++ compiler is need to be installed at our local system. There are multiple ways you can get C++ compiler at your local system. However, I will use Microsoft Visual Studio C++ build tool. To proceed with installation of the build tool, first refer the website called wiki.python.org. This is the website wiki.python.org. Here you can see a table. This is for Visual Studio C++ version and corresponding Python version. As you know, I have installed a 3.8 Python version, so I have to install a C++ build tool which is 14.x. At the same time, also please notice this thing. You have to upgrade the setup tools version. Here we can see we have a Visual Studio C++ 14.2 compiler version which is available with Visual Studio 2019. Okay, and to install this C++ 14.2, we need to upgrade our setup tools version 34.4.0. So these are the reference we should have to remember while we are working on this C++ compiler for Python development. So please refer this web page in future also, because with time the informations may get changed. So next step is to check this version. Here we cannot check the setup tool version like this. The Python that is setup tools dash dash version does not work because setup tools does not has any entry point. So for that you can use setup tools, this command. So here I'm trying to install the setup tools which is already installed, and it's saying an information of setup tools version that is 49.2.1, which is far higher than 34.4.0. So we are done with our all my requirement. Python version is 3.8.8 and our setup tools version is 49.2.1. So now we'll proceed to install Visual Studio and then C++ build tool. As I have told, there are multiple ways to get the C++ build tool. However, I used to prefer Microsoft Visual Studio installer to install C++ build tool. Okay, and for that you have to go to this link which is called Visual Studio Microsoft Downloads. Okay, there you can see for Windows we have Visual Studio 2019 available with us. As I have mentioned here that we will be having the C++ 14.2 compiler available with Visual Studio 2019. Now we are downloading Visual Studio 2019. Let's download. It has got downloaded. Now run it as an administrator. It is asking for permission, so I've given the permission. If you want to continue, yes. Now it's done with Microsoft Visual Studio installer. So I'll be opening that. Now we have opened the Visual Studio installer. There you can see that there is nothing has been installed now. So here is the available list, and here I'll be using this Visual Studio Community version 2019. If we click on the install, it will be asking for workload, what we want to install along with this Visual Studio. Now our target is to install this C++ build tool. Okay, so we are on our destination. If we click on this C++ compiler along with this Visual Studio Community version, it asking that it will be downloading 7.39 GB. Please note this thing. When I'm selecting this thing, the C++ fill tool, it is showing that this much of total space is required in your drive. I have installed these applications in my C drive, so I will be checking that yes, I have enough amount of space in C drive. At the same time, you should check your broadband if you are eligible to download this much of data or not. So once everything is done, you can click on install. It will be taking some time to download and install. So when this downloading and installation is done, we will be done with the Visual Studio Community version installation, at the same time the C++ build tool installation. So once it is done, we will be ready to compile our source code for PyInstaller. So pausing the video now. Installation is about to finish. Now if I click on modify, you can see that C++ compiler, C++ build tool has been already added. So now we are done with our compiler installation. We will proceed to download the source code of PyInstaller. For that we will be going to this GitHub location. So this is the latest release. So here I will be downloading the source code in zip. Okay. I am unzipping the PyInstaller zip file. The source code I have downloaded from GitHub. PyInstaller. Then I will be clicking on the we can see that. Okay, next we need to go to bootloader. There we will get WAF module to build the PyInstaller bootloader. Python So you can see that this executable for 64-bit has been recreated. So now I have a PyInstaller source code along with a bootloader which is built in our own system. Now I'll be installing this PyInstaller version in my system, and for that we have to go to this PyInstaller root directory. So project root directory, where how do you get a project root directory? The directory where setup.py is available is called the project root directory. This is the project root directory. So I'll be moving towards CD bootloader. I think it's one CD. Yeah. Okay. Then if I run Python setup.py install, it will be installing the. Okay. Before that, I'll be checking if I have any PyInstaller installed or not. As you can see, the PyInstaller was already installed. I have shown you how to install it in the beginning of this recording. That way it was actually installed from PyPy. Now I'll be installing the PyInstaller with a bootloader which has been compiled at my local system. Right. So dir set setup.py install. Okay. Will has not been installed in my system. That's why it's throwing the error message. It's again given an error message. Running install error, cannot create or move or remove file in install directory. You may have faced this type of error message also. So in that case, the solution is you have to run the command prompt as an administrator. So there you can search the CMD and click on run as administrator. Now we have started the command prompt using admin mode. So we are navigating to the project root directory. Then we'll be starting to install. I hope this time it will get installed. Locally compiled PyInstaller has been installed. Before you create the executable, you need to delete all these artifact which was created previously by PyInstaller during the creation of executable. So for that I will be going to the path of the project. There we can see this build and dist. These are the two folders that should be deleted, and this thing we need to delete. Okay, now we are good to create a new executable using PyInstaller. Next I have to go to this browser and this virus total website, and I will check this file. Yes, it has already taken the path from the history. So here we are done. As I have mentioned, we can nullify or reduce the number of virus threads. So here we have reduced the number of virus threads. It's a huge amount of reduction. In that case, you have to choose the first workaround, and I have mentioned in the part 1. That is, you have to reach to antivirus company with a claim that the virus thread on your executable is a false positive by their antivirus. So they will consider your executable and mark into their safe list. Here I want to mention one point. Though we still need to reach some antivirus company to claim their threat as a false positive, still, if we consider the compilation of the PyInstaller source code and its upstream activities, everything is an one-time effort. You will be getting the impact of this effort on every time you will be creating executable using PyInstaller. I hope it will be helpful to you. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.